everyone to the latest edition of the Get Up and Go Show. This is Anne-Marie Morales of The Art of Healing, and today I have the immense pleasure of introducing to you Mr. William Michael Forbes. And I've been a big fan of his for almost 2 years now, and he is a beautiful, beautiful soul and an extraordinary channel. And I'm just really looking forward to what Spirit has for us today. So without further ado, here is Mr. William Michael Forbes. And welcome, William, to the Get Up and Go Show.
Hi, Anne-Marie. Thank you for having me on. I really appreciate the opportunity to do this.
Well, I am just excited beyond belief. And when I filmed the little intro to this whole series, I said in there that I will be interviewing my spiritual crushes, and you would definitely qualify as a spiritual crush. You know, I've been following you for about 2 years, and I just resonate so much with you. And when this whole download came, you know, everything that I'm doing, I'm just taking it from Spirit, one step to the other. And your name was there on Facebook. We had become friends on Facebook. And I was like, William, I've got to get William on here because he's definitely a teacher that I admire. So please tell everyone a little bit about yourself.
Certainly. My name is William Michael Forbes. I'm a spiritual medium, a channel, and an intuitive life coach. And basically what I do is I bring my guides, angels, ascended masters, other multidimensional beings through to humanity to offer inspiring, uplifting messages, methods, techniques, solutions, answers to everyday life problems, and also to facilitate a larger number of people to awakening themselves to their guides and angels during this ascension period, because the energy on the planet's really amped up to bring humanity into a whole new awareness of self and self-expression. So that's me in a nutshell.
I am ready. When I get excited, my eye tears. So don't think like I'm crying. I have
That's
cried.
Cool.
I have cried emotionally.
Tears of joy, I hope.
But yeah. But I'm sorry. It's just, never mind. We shall move forward. We shall move forward. So tell us a little bit about your journey. What brought you to where you are? Where do you live? All sorts of nice, you know, little information.
Wonderful. I live in Toronto, Canada. That's where we're based in. My journey actually started, I guess, when I was about 20 years old, when I was about to jump off a 130-foot bridge. Wow. And a voice yelled at me and said, "Stop and don't jump. Get off the bridge. Call this phone number. Ask for this man. He'll help you." And so I did. I literally got down off the bridge and I walked over to the payphone and called the number, and the man was there. And that, at the time, I didn't make sense that this was my guardian angel talking. It made no sense to me. I didn't even equate. I just was so desperate. I went and called this man, and he took me into his home. One of the conditions of him helping me was that I had to read a book, and that book opened up my mind to who I was. I began to change my mind, and that led me on to other spiritual teachings and sciences and philosophies that opened me up to these realms that I was open to, but wasn't even aware I was receiving them. So I spent a lot of.
What was that book? William, what was that
book? The book was called The Psychology of Self-Esteem by Dr. Nathaniel Branden, who was actually the founder of what we call the self-help movement.
Okay.
And in his book, there was a statement in the book that really changed my life. And the statement was, the question for man isn't to be or not to be. The question for man is to think or not to think. And when I read that line, I realized for the first time in my life that I actually had choice over my thoughts. And I didn't know that up to age 20. I was just running with the thoughts that were given to me by my environment, and they drove me crazy to the point where I'm going to jump off a bridge.
I mean, that's what we are. I think a lot of humanity is running into that brick wall right now, and they're seeing that their thoughts are being, to put it politely, molded. You know, to put it very politely, molded.
Yeah. So, my guides and angels have been telling me, this is a great point you bring up, that this really is what's happened in the last 110 years, is specifically in a very intense level. You know, through the programming of mass media mechanisms, people have been told what they should or should not think.
Right.
and they've adopted the fear paradigm, they've adopted the guilt and shame paradigm, they've adopted the I don't matter, you matter more than me, I shouldn't care about myself paradigm. And it does not work in a divine scenario where love is the foundation of consciousness versus fear.
Absolutely.
And yeah, you're right. A lot of people are waking up now that I don't want to have, I don't have to live with these thoughts and these emotions that
Right.
they create. Yeah.
Yeah. And I live with my 94-year-old mother, and
Awesome.
every morning, we sit and have breakfast. We have our little routines, and she reads the newspaper, and I generally go through whatever is in my news feed on social media. And one of the things that we had a real genuine conversation about this morning was that, it's about, she's always like has a routine, is following her directions, and I'm trying to be very gentle with her. It's amazing to see how a mind, almost 100-year-old mind, 94 years, and all the experience that she's gone through. And I don't mean to hijack your interview, but it's profound personally for me, because she was bombed on in World War II. She was a child. She's from the island of Malta. And I've been to Toronto quite a few times because I've sung for the Maltese Canadian community over on Dundas Street. I guess it's a big, long.
Yeah. No, Dundas Street very well.
Yeah. So I've been there before.
No, I don't think you hijacked anything. I think the fact that you have a 94-year-old mother would probably know really well, could tell you a really good snapshot, and give us a really good snapshot of how things have changed from 80 years ago to now in terms of what people are told to watch, or what entertainment is, what we're focusing on now as a society, as a species. She probably has watched a great deal of change happen.
Oh, absolutely. I told her, I said, you have always put your faith in what came out of that box. And I was pointing to the television. And first it was the radio. She lived through the, what was it, the Spanish flu?
Yep.
And that's when radio came out. So she went from hearing words through the air on a little box, being a part of the British colonies, being a British colonist. And it's extraordinary life. I tell you, it's an honor. It's an honor to be a part of that. So
it is. And like I said, a lot of people now are beginning to realize that whole process of transformation is not working anymore. Where we are as a society, as a species, is neither sustainable mentally or emotionally.
mm-hmm.
And it's really forcing a lot of changes. It's such a blessing that you got this relationship with your mother, that you have the opportunity to learn so much from her about what her experience was. And the fact that she is attached to that box, a lot of us have been attached to that box. And I spent most of my childhood in front of that box.
Sure, we all did.
And not realizing that those thoughts, those emotions, those behaviors that were projected at me were actually influencing me to become a certain way.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's time. Now we got this little box that we're communicating through right now, and the box can be used for good, or it can be used for evil. And
absolutely.
The thing that was triggered for me is the very, very first movie that was ever filmed was actually of a train coming down a train track. They aired at a theater, and when you see the film of these people watching the film in the theater, as this train comes into view on the screen, all of the people start dashing away from the screen. They couldn't distinguish between the train on the screen and a real train in real life. Which leads me to believe, if people are easily susceptible back then, are we any less susceptible now to being caught up in the beliefs that are being projected? That you should be afraid of your neighbors, you should not trust anybody, you watch out for the zombies, there's a new contagious disease coming. And there's a lot of things that people can just accept without questioning. And I think our species is moving away from that naivete now, where in the ascension process, we are becoming self-aware and aware of our relationship to others and aware of our connection to source.
Mm-hmm.
And that awareness is what's propelling us from the limited beliefs of what other people think to an innate knowing that we have a limitless way of expressing who and what we are, and then evolving it beyond what we know.
That's just, it's beautiful. And I encourage everyone to go and listen to what William is doing on a daily basis at this time, and check out all his videos. And we'll have links, of course, below on this with this video as well. Getting back to kind of like less heavy topics, because I think that's really one of the reasons why I did this show to begin with, because we're all, even those of us who have a good connection to spirit, a beautiful connection to spirit, sometimes we tend to get sad, and but I want to refocus on what brings us personal joy, what brings us love, and what makes us get up and go, which is the whole impetus of this show. So talk to me a little bit about things that you personally enjoy to do. Like, are you an artist? Do you like to write? Do you go, I don't know, talk to us.
Well, that's a great question. Thanks for asking. I guess the first thing comes to mind, the thing I like to do most of the day is open my eyes in the morning.
Oh,
For me,
wow.
opening my eyes in the morning gives me the greatest joy, because I get to exist and express this reality that I'm in. Then I like eating really healthy, vibrant food. I like to go out and ground in nature and connect to the birds and the natural element. I love drinking lots of water. And I love sharing the message. I was a perpetual writer for many, many years. I got lots and lots of written works that have never been published. I've got volumes of poetry that have never been published. And of course, these last couple of years, when my angels and guides started coming to me, that's been a real big change for my life. And that's, I mean, I relish. As you know, I run a daily show now called Shortcuts for Your Soul, and watching the information that they bring through, and the lessons and the information that's communicated to people, just mind-blowing. So I love doing the shows. I love doing the writing. I love being alive, and I think that's what we all want to do, right? Love being alive.
Beautiful. Absolutely. Absolutely. You live in Metropolis. I mean, you live in Toronto. Is it easy for you to connect with nature when you're in a big city like that?
Absolutely. We live in a part of Toronto that's called Bloor Street. Bloor Street, one of the major intersections of the streets in Toronto, is called Bloor Street, and Yonge is the area we live in. And there we've got a huge thing called Rosedale Valley. That's just north of us, like a 2-minute walk. We can be down in Rosedale Valley.
Okay.
A 10-minute walk, we can go to another valley. You know, a 15-minute walk, we can be in a completely other valley. So Toronto is really remarkable that way, and there's lots of places that we can actually go out and connect to nature, surprisingly enough. And you can go on the bicycle trails here and go for literally miles and not have to go up on the city streets. So I love doing that.
That's wonderful. That's so good to hear. So, we connected a little bit about that painting that's over your left shoulder, I think. That beautiful painting. Tell us a little bit, because I'm surrounded by paintings. You have beautiful paintings behind you. Talk to us a little bit about that particular one.
That particular painting happened about 2.5 years ago, just when we actually first moved into where we are. We had lived on a boat for 9 years. We lived on an actual small yacht for 9 years, and then we moved into this condominium.
That's amazing. I mean, hold on, stop. Talk to us about living on a boat. What is that like?
It's actually a very amazing experience. I wouldn't have traded for anything. We lived on it year round for 3 years here in the Toronto Harbor, and then we lived on it seasonally for another 6 years. The process is amazing. It's a whole other reality, a whole other culture. It's a whole other way of being. You actually become the $1 million view for the city by being a boater. We lived at the island, so we got to live on the island for basically 8 years. We could take our boat over to this special place and anchor and just be in nature all the time. I learned a lot about how to do mechanical work myself, so I got really involved in maintaining and because you have to know how to take care of the boat. It's not just get in the boat and sit and float. You have to learn about bilge pumps and electronics and water filters and fuel filters, and it was really exciting. I learned a lot. We had a wonderful time. A lot of growth happened there.
I can just imagine. talk about controlling your destiny. I mean, that's one of the things about my spiritual awakening and the teachings that I've listened to over the years. And um, one of those is that you are where you are because of your own choices and actions. So there's nothing to complain about because you are allowing yourself to be there. So when you have this awakening to the fact that, you know, if I really want to live on a boat, I can go live on a boat. There's nothing really that is going to stop me, because if I'm able to live here, I can go somewhere else, you know? So if you had to do just one excursion, something that you've always wanted to do, and especially now with, I don't know, awakening to sacred sites and things like that, where would you go?
Well, where I would go is where I am right now. But in terms of a desired place to go, Tahiti, actually, French Polynesia
Oh, wow.
is is an area that I want to go and connect to the energy down there. There's also other sacred sites that I've been drawn to, like Egypt has been calling me for some time.
Wow.
But again, my guides, angels keep telling me we have to focus on getting the information out until it gains enough momentum. Then I can start focusing on moving around, and we can start to move to different points of time and space to do the work. But right now, the focus is on the show. But those are the two places that
Absolutely.
stand out most for me personally.
Oh, very cool. That's really beautiful. What other things do you do? Do you have like pets that you love? I mean, one of the reasons why I wanted to do the show, and I don't mean to poo-poo the important stuff, because obviously it's very
Oh, I
important,
understand.
but we are still three in our 3D environment. We still have certain uh, pleasures that can only be enhanced by what we know spiritually.
Yes.
Just really beautiful, simple things. What is it for you that while you're experiencing your day-to-day life, you just stop and say, wow, that's really beautiful?
Well, my partner for first and foremost,
Oh,
Norma Jean, she just like blows my mind. I mean, I can she's somebody I can ask any question anytime, and I can bounce stuff off her. We do amazing sessions, channeling, bringing information through together. She's the first and foremost joy in my life that I have this close to me. And then we got our little puppy dog, Tika, who's
oh, cool.
a little bundle of joy, a little tiny Yorkie. Yeah, I mean, I'm grateful for everything that's in my life. There's not much that I have in my life now that in fact, there's nothing in my life that I'm not grateful for at this point in time. It's like, what else is there to do other than be grateful?
That's absolutely beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. So one thing I like to do with all my interviewees is I ask you to bring your favorite mug. So tell us what you brought.
Okay, this is a mug that was given to me by one of my best friends. And because we don't eat processed foods, and we don't eat we as naturally as we can. So one of the things I like is hot chocolate, but I like organic hot chocolate. So I was telling my buddy, you know, we love hot chocolate, but we don't have the right mugs for it. And he went out, and this was a gift from him,
Ah,
Godiva mug. So we can make our giant hot chocolates out of our cacao and our natural sweeteners, dates. We use dates as our sweetener for our hot chocolate, and then we put in cashews, and we make the most exquisite hot chocolate. So
oh,
this is actually my hot chocolate mug. But today, because it's my special mug, I'm using it for a cup of chai tea today.
that's wonderful. I was just telling William before we started recording that I have the same Godiva mug, only all in brown. And this morning I said I should get that mug. And then my ego kicked in and I was like, no, it's just a big brown mug. What's so special about it? One of these days I will fully trust spirit. One of these days. So I've got to do it, because we would have had the same mug, but alas. I will show you the mug that my ego chose. And that was a mug that was given to me by a dear friend when I went to go visit her in Washington, D.C. And it's a cherry blossom mug, because we're in spring. It's cherry blossom festival time. So I chose this one.
It's interesting that yours came from a friend too. So there
Yes,
was there's
That
still
is
that
true.
common factor. That's wondrous.
That is true. That's very, very true. Well, gosh, any other words do you want to share with people on how to refocus in? Because a lot of people are still very influenced by the news. They're still very influenced by what's out there. And do you have anything to say to them to help them focus on the joy and help them focus on love?
Thank you for asking that question. Yeah, there's lots that can be said on that, but ultimately the most simple thing, I really love that you named your show the Get Up and Go Show, because we're really at that point as a species and as individuals that we need to learn to get up and go inside ourselves, to get out of the attachments we have to our suffering, the attachments we have to being limited, the attachment to not being able to be more. We need to let those go and start to embrace our greatness and start to embrace that we're way more than what our thoughts tell us. We're way more than what our emotions are telling us. And to begin to really charge that up. Like my angels always tell me, very important, keep your mind quiet so you can actually think, right?
That
Learn
is
to keep
that
your
is
mind
such a
quiet.
that is such a struggle. And the other morning I try, because I hear you saying this all the time, that we really have to sit in silence. We have to sit in silence. And every time I do sit in silence, I start to either channel or I start to shake or I start to get all these downloads of great ideas, which serve me. Uh, but do you think that for those of us who are, I don't know, I'm making the best effort that I can. It's not a detriment. I mean, I'm trying, let's just put it that way. I'm really trying to quiet my mind, but it's not easy. Even for
Yeah.
somebody as connected as I am. I think I'm pretty well connected.
I get that you're pretty connected too. And again, silence is to be able to get your mind quiet is so that you can actually begin to hear, like you described, those downloads, the wisdom that's trying to come through you to be expressed through you. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, each and every one of us, is a unique expression of an infinite intelligence. And being able to tune into what that intelligence is trying to impart to the world means that we have to get this world mind, the acquired mind, enough out of the way so you can actually begin to hear that stuff and translate it into actions, into writing, into spiritual practices. And getting the mind quiet doesn't have to be a difficult thing. I mean, I used my breath repeatedly till I finally got my mind and body still. And now you can hear. Once your mind is quiet, you'll actually start to hear. A lot of people don't realize that. And I've said that many times. They tell that to me frequently. Get your mind quiet, and then you'll start to hear. As you know from your experience with when you do meditation, you start getting all these downloads.
So
Once you,
maybe my mind is okay.
your mind is okay. Like I said, the acid test that I always use is, does this feel like an expression of love coming through to me? I always ask myself that, does this feel like an expression of love coming through to me? Is this an expression of love to humanity? If it feels that way to me, then I allow it.
Mm-hmm.
If it doesn't feel that way to me, I don't. But as you raise your vibration, as you change your vibration about how you feel, one of the things that starts to happen is you only resonate and receive information that's on that vibration of love, just as we can receive vibrational information at a lower vibration. It's where you're vibrating.
Mm-hmm.
And that we have control over by where we focus, what we put our attention on. We can control what level we're going to vibrate at.
Mm-hmm.
That makes it easy.
Yeah, and I think it's fair to say that what works for you may not work for me, may not work for the next person. But I think if we hold the gauge, what you just said about whether what we are experiencing is joy, whether it is bliss, if it is love, then, maybe we're doing good. Maybe that's all we need. Maybe that's good. I don't need to, sit in cross-legged under a pyramid for 2 hours. Maybe I can do it. Maybe I can do it for 15 minutes in the morning. And that's well, good. I feel much better. I feel much better. Thank you.
That can certainly work. 15 minutes is I started with 5 because I couldn't do more than 5.
Mm-hmm.
My mind used to go, blah, 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 you know, and my body be restless and stuff. And I got to 5 minutes where I could keep my body quiet. My mind wouldn't be going, what's that? What's this? What's that? And
Yeah.
then I got to 10 minutes and then 15, then 20. Now I can meditate for 3, 4 hours sometimes.
Yeah. Wow.
And it goes by in the blink of an eye. But the sensation of having a quiet mind is literally like being out in nature. It really is. It's like being in Mother Nature, just listening to the wind through the trees and the sounds of the birds. And
That's so
yeah,
beautiful. That's
yeah.
so beautiful. I think that's, yeah. I mean, this is kind of a breakthrough for me, at least in my own thoughts, because I think I hold myself to a certain, like, oh, if I don't do it like this, then it's not right. Or if
Mm.
I don't channel like this, then it's not good enough. And these are thoughts that if I hold them, then I'm sure many other people hold them, right?
Yeah, that's a great point you bring up. You know, one of the things we teach our students, and I know a lot of the messages that come through in our live presentations, is that there is no right and wrong in the process of your learning.
Right.
There is your process, and you can't compare your process to anybody else's, but you can become tuned into when you're operating in a process that makes you feel joyful, when you're operating in a process that makes you feel unhappy.
Mm-hmm.
And it's easy. Your body doesn't, you don't feel good if you're not thinking and feeling good. If you're feeling good, you are.
Right.
It gets to real simplicity, but that's a really important point to consider, that you can
That's
very
right.
easily move through that.
I mean, this whole situation, this whole show uh, was brought about because up until maybe a week and a half ago, I was really down. I was so down, and I was like, I need to be able to reconnect with my joy, because I was feeling like isolated. I was feeling, taken away from my touch with my children. I'm an elementary arts teacher. So I get little kindergartners, 5-year-olds, 6-year-olds, coming up and hugging me. And I don't have, it's not an ego thing. It's a true joy. It's a true love that I have for these little beings, and it just chokes me up, that had been taken away, and but this is what it brought about. And I think,
I'm great. I'm grateful that it did, because your joy and your love is translating through this too, and the world needs this. The bigger people need this more than little people right now.
yeah, that's very true. That's very, very true. So I have not necessarily, I've been getting downloads while we're talking. Have you been receiving any messages you want to
Oh, yeah,
give to
like I
us?
said, there's lots that I've been receiving, and
Yeah.
I'm just again, dependent upon what the need of your audience is what my angels will provide that information. But the strongest message I get is just learn to be quiet
Mhm.
and still within yourself and listen, because you'll start to get the guidance and the information that you need to take you away from any form of suffering. Once you turn your attention from it, you'll be free of it, literally.
Yeah.
That's the strongest thing they're saying over and over. Just tell people that they need to really, your audience need, those in your audience need to really understand that suffering is not what you came here to do. Suffering is something that's been imposed on you by the world around you. It's time to release that, and then let your light, the love that is you, shine through that form that you live in.
Mhm.
And again, that's a matter of patience and getting your mind quiet and your body quiet, but letting your real heart speak. Let your soul speak. Get your ego out of the way, get your mind out of the way, and start speaking from that place of oneness, if you like, if that's the right term that we can use. Oneness.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, uh, I'm getting like an urge, if you don't mind. I'm gonna
Please,
start to channel.
absolutely.
Karatia terakuta hea taramata. Eso shotor ke ate tiria tokotoro materi ke atero uso shototore ke ate tri hatoturuma. Tiriata karakutori utore katara materi ke tara atasho turu ke tare e aso shototor makatare. Karamateri ke tachoro mari atrio so shototoro ukutoro kotara mara ke tiria tutu sho totoro aktu. Atashotam para ke tete. Mara hotere ke hayuta. Eso shotoro ya tu tere ke atotoro materi atoro tucho totoro kotojo matisia. Urutu makate osu ayuatare aitu ahiataraka. Jesute kutarehia katarahe sushatura katamaria tereka suhaye. Ia katarehewaye sugayutarani amanara a suahi atereke amanuteraka. Etutereka.
Mm. Mhm. Much love to you as well. Thank you.
Ooh, that's beautiful. Oh gosh, you know, it's been such a pleasure. Thank you for indulging the strange woman that you barely know. Thank you for coming on to my show and blessing us with your beautiful gifts and your beautiful soul. Um, and that's it, really. Thank
Wonderful.
you.
Thank you
My
so much. And again,
goodness.
thank you too, Anne-Marie. I really appreciate it. And your message, thank you so kindly for that gift.
Oh, it's my pleasure. It's my honor. And where can whoever wants to find you, where can they find you?
If they want to get into, anyone wants to get in touch with me or watch my live shows, you can look for William Michael Forbes on YouTube. You can also go to my website and williammichaelforbes.com, and you can book a reading with me. You can check out our courses and classes. You can also get to my Instagram and other ways of contacting me there too. But those are the two fundamental ways that anybody can reach me.
That's great. All right. Thank you, everyone, for joining us.
You're welcome.
Bye-bye.